Pod. Welcome back to another episode of Say Who, Say Pod. He's Danny O'Neil in a sports coat. I'm Christian Caple. The Washington Huskies are 2-0 after a narrow 70-10 victory over the UC Davis Aggies on Saturday.
Now that's what I'm talking about. That's how you treat a non-conference opponent.
Did you stay up for the whole thing?
I did not. I made it to the second half, and then I figured that I can watch the rest of this in the morning.
That you didn't want to watch the youngsters make their debut in the fourth quarter?
I did, but again, the primary, I am terrible at time capsuling where you record something and then try to watch it later, because the moment there starts to be uncertainty about the outcome, I start skipping ahead. I'm not able to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty and not fast forward. But when it's more, and this game falls into that, if it's more of a studious approach, I can absolutely sit there and just observe, which is what I did in the second half, watching all the young kids play.
I'm going to ask what your takeaways were from those youngsters. But first, it is, of course, our privilege to let you know that today's episode of Say Who, Say Pod is brought to you by our good friends at Chuck Olson Kia in Shoreline. Locally owned and operated since 1964, Chuck Olson Kia is, in fact, family owned and operated by a family of University of Washington graduates with a low-pressure, friendly sales staff and competitively priced vehicles. We hope you'll make Chuck Olson Kia your next destination for all of your vehicle buying needs. If you do, ask for Henry Olson, our good pal Henry. And if you do talk to Henry, let him know that Say Who, Say Pod sent you. Thank you to our friends at Chuck Olson Kia. What'd you think? What'd you think of the fourth quarter, watching it back?
I think that there's a lot of things to be really excited about. And I think that Jedd and the enthusiasm that Jedd brings, you can see in the way his players play. I think that there is excitement around the program and within the program, and that was great to see, because I do believe that Jedd he might be the most committed coach I can Husky coach to playing youngsters that I've seen. I feel that way. I think we should have known it last year, but now it's even more clear because it's his second year. They didn't have the depth of roster turnover. And so I did find myself thinking that, hey, some of these guys that we see in the fourth quarter, we might be seeing on the field more in the second half of the season. I thought it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I feel like the 4-game redshirt rule gives you a little more flexibility. So it's not like there's a ton of history to compare this to, but I do get the feeling that he's more willing to throw one of the very last guys on the depth chart out there in the fourth quarter of a blowout, knowing we're probably never going to get to this guy again in a true game setting this year. He basically said that on Monday, because he had said, hey, yeah, I think it was already obvious, but guys like John Mills, Desmond Roebuck, Braden Vines-Bright, Devin Hyde, Dylan Robinson, and Rylan Dillard Allen are not redshirting. Those guys are going to play, as long as they're healthy and everything. They're going to play in every game, and a couple of them, maybe it's just special teams, but those guys aren't redshirting. And then he said, the guys who played just in the fourth quarter on Saturday, Ramones Adams, cornerback, Champ Talea at guard, Darian Clemens, cornerback from Spanaway Lake, got out there in the fourth quarter even. Guys like that, he kind of said, yeah, this was, it was 70-10 in the fourth quarter, and it was a chance to get him in the game, but I don't anticipate we're going to have a ton of opportunities to do that in Big Ten play. So that was probably, if not it for them, then certainly they're not going to play in more than 3 games the rest of the way. And that, injuries could always change that. And he says they don't really make decisions on red shirts until a guy has played 3 games or has played 4 games, I guess. And then it's, okay, what's left? And do we need to pull this guy back? Do we need him enough that, is his contribution going to be significant enough that we should pull his red shirt? But outside of those 6 who played in the first game, I don't know that I would anticipate anybody not redshirting from this freshman group.
What were your impressions of the young guys, the second half, what we saw in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, man. I have never seen a game where a team scores touchdowns on every single possession. 100% of available yards. I've never seen that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's as much a takeaway about the starters and, their regular offense, so to speak, as it is anything else. But like the fact that Kai Horton led 3 touchdown drives.
Yep.
I mean, they had the backup quarterback in there for 3 drives. They had their backup offensive line in there for at least 2 of those. They're going deep at receiver. Now, they don't have a ton of receivers who are like third and fourth string, but you got guys out there who are probably not going to play a ton this year. Justice Williams got an opportunity to make a couple catches. Chris Lawson, who I feel like myself and other people who cover the team have been telling you about since spring. He was the best freshman receiver this spring. And part of that is you'll hear Jedd Fisch say the old, mostly NFL axiom, but football axiom of the best ability is availability. It was Chris Lawson who was healthy this spring and made a ton of plays. And, Raiden Vinesbright kind of stole the show in the spring game. Desmond Roebuck was still in high school. He was not an early enrollee. And so I was kind of expecting Lawson to maybe have a role this year. And we can roll this maybe into our next subject of, they've lost Rashid Williams to a collarbone injury for at least a few weeks. I think if we follow the old tried and true rule of assuming that injuries are worse than what's being said publicly, it's
always worse. Weeks. They're always worse than what they tell you.
Yeah. And collarbone especially, I mean, can be, that ended Jalen Polk's season. Kind of a bizarre parallel, actually. It wasn't the season opener, this one, but Jalen Polk caught his first catch as a Husky against Montana and broke his collarbone, was out for the season. Actually had to have emergency surgery that night. This was the second game, and Rashid Williams has played at Washington before, but his first catch of the game, big play, 27 yards. And I didn't notice it live, but you watch the replay, he gets up, you can see him kind of grab at that collarbone area, that left collarbone area. And he stayed in. I think that thing of like, you don't want to believe that you're hurt as bad as you probably deep down know you are. He stayed in for the next play, which was a running play for Jonah Coleman, and then went off. I think realized like, shoot, I can't play through this. So I went to the locker room, and next time we saw him, had his arm in a sling under his pullover or sweatshirt or whatever he had on. So with him out, like, it's pretty obvious Desmond Roebuck is going to start on the outside, which I kind of figured he'd be pushing for starting reps at some point. Got to say, I didn't think it'd be week 3. After he played 60 snaps, he played more than any receiver on Saturday. And so, he's in there late, right? Like with the backup quarterback and with the backup O-line, but that guy's basically a starter now. So they did have some skill players on the field like late in that fourth quarter who are going to be a factor this year. But still, like, to go out there and not even have one drive where you take a step back and, run the ball a few times and they just stop it. You got Jordan Washington out there for 6 carries, and when he turned the corner a couple times, I wondered if he might go. You kind of didn't quite get to see the speed in the open field fully. Didn't get to see him totally open it up, but you could just got a little hint to that electricity. 6 carries for 33 yards, I want to say. So that was the most he'd played. Adam Mohammed darn near runs for 100 yards once they sit Jonah Coleman down. Just like the oddity of, not getting a kickoff with 13 seconds left in the first half where all you can do is take a knee. And so now you don't get to say you scored on every possession. Or like, I was standing there next to someone in the fourth quarter as UC Davis has the ball, and they had a 3rd down or maybe even a 4th down. And I'm like, if they convert this, it's sealed. They scored on every offensive possession. If they don't, and Washington gets it back, they're probably going to take a knee, or they're going to run it a couple times. They're not going to be trying to score. It's going to ruin their perfect their perfect drive thing they have going on here. So a lot had to line up to go 9 for 9 on the touchdowns. Have you ever seen that before in a football game?
I need to go back and look. There was a Seahawks-Bills game in 2000. I think it's 2020. It's either 19 or 20. No, it's and I know the Bills scored every time, but I think there might have been one where they didn't. They settled for a field goal. I can't think of another time that I've seen a perfect. It's like the perfect inning where it's 9 pitches, 3 strikeouts for a pitcher. Score a touchdown every time you get the ball it's a perfect game. You threw a perfect game on offense. And yeah, I can't remember another one. I remember Corey Dillon scoring 5 touchdowns against San Jose State, which was wild because of how early that happened. But yeah,
so I was shocked to know that the 5 touchdowns were not against San Jose State. He had the crazy first half against San Jose State, the ridiculous like yards from scrimmage, but the 5 touchdowns were against UCLA.
No way.
Somehow. Yeah.
Really?
And it wasn't like I was expecting it to be some wild stat line. He needed like 33 carries, 33 or 35 carries, I want to say, against UCLA for like 140 something. So it was like they really committed to, I think they'd had like a bad loss before that. They'd had a game where they didn't run the ball well or something, and they wanted to like reassert themselves physically. And so they just committed to mashing the hell out of the Bruins. And he did it like, yeah, five touchdowns on like 33 carries for 140 some yards. Hugh McElhaney was a little more efficient with his 5 touchdowns.
I can't believe I was so certain that was the San Jose State game, because that was such a weird how everything played out. I did not even realize that it was the UCLA game that he did that. That 96 Huskies season, I'm looking it up now, is such a funny year. So the game, you're right, the UCLA game came after they played at Notre Dame. And
That's right.
And they were actually, like, early on, it looked like they might be competitive with Notre Dame. And then it just got away from them. But there was definitely, coming out of that, it was like, Corey Dillon's your best player. Like, why isn't he getting the ball more? And the feeling that next week was very much still trying to force him. Such a strange. It was just that 96 season is one of the weirder Husky seasons that I can remember, because they only lost 2 regular season games, and they were extremely talented. And there was a little bit of reluctance early on to lean too far into Corey Dillon, because they still had Rashawn Sheehy. They also Holloman was also a running back on that team, Terry Holloman. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I just assumed that Corey Dillon game was the San Jose State game.
So what makes it confusing is not just that, he had such a great statistical achievement in that game. So it's like, well, he scored 5 touchdowns in a game in 1996. Well, of course it was San Jose State. What throws it off a little bit, he scored 4 touchdowns in that first quarter against San Jose State before reportedly he's saying, I'm done. One of them was a receiving touchdown, though. He had like the 83-yard catch. So he had 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown in the first quarter. I think he probably could have got 1 or 2 more if he'd stayed in. It's possible.
It's possible, for all the conversation, it's possible Corey Dillon's the best Washington football player I've ever seen. Like that, that's a possibility. It won't ever be remembered that way, and I wouldn't list him one. It's Marcus Tuiasosopo and Michael Penix have had the 2 best seasons of any Husky I've ever seen. Reggie Williams is up there too. But yeah, so and for Jonah Coleman, could this season have started any better?
It really couldn't have. I mean, I guess he only had 111 rushing yards against Davis. And by the way, I got friends texting me and stuff during the game, and I think after his 4th touchdown, which was in the first half, I had 3 or 4 people who were like, all right, get him out. That's it. Sit him down. I don't want to see any more Jonah Coleman tonight. And I'm like, he's only got 80 yards. Jedd is not taking him out before he gets 100. He is going to get him his 100 yards. And it was on the possession where he went over 100 that he finally came out. And we talked about this last year, right? He put him back in for one carry in the Weber State game to get him 100. He talked about targeting Giles Jackson one last time when the score was decided to try to get him over 100 receiving yards. Like, he's a player's coach that way. He is aware of not just the scoreboard, but the stat sheet. And where possible, he's going to try to let his guys get their numbers. It all goes into the attention economy and how you market your program and how you let guys build their brand. You're not going to take the running back out who's got, 4 touchdowns, but only 80 some yards. You're going to let him get his 100 if you can.
As a longtime player of NCAA football, and to a lesser extent Madden, but it's really the college football games where I would try to do it. We've all had the seasons where we try to get one guy as many touchdowns as possible, right?
Oh, yeah.
It'd be kind of fun if they did that with Jonah Coleman this year. It'd be kind of, and I know there's a variety of reasons it would never happen, not the least of which is coaches really don't want to show up other coaches. The second reason being it's really freaking hard to schedule your touchdowns. Like you're grateful whenever you get most of them, that only games. But in a game against UC Davis, having Jonah Coleman score 5 touchdowns, if you were going to try to create a scenario in which you got the most touchdowns possible for a guy, this is kind of the way you do it.
So he's showing up at least on some like Heisman top 10s after the first 2 weeks. There's no point even going there at this point. They've played 2 games and they've played nobody really, and so I'll set that aside. I do think these 2 games could go a long way toward keeping him in the Doak Walker conversation. Because come the end of the year, first of all, he's coming off a 1,000-yard year, so he's got a lot of attention going into the season as one of the top backs in the Big Ten, and I think now also one of the top backs nationally. And he's shared Offensive Player of the Week honors in the Big Ten each of the first 2 weeks, so that helps. When it comes time for people to vote on the Doak Walker at the end of the year, they're looking at their ballot and they're looking at numbers. And they're looking at how many rushing yards, how many rushing touchdowns, how many yards per rush. And then maybe you go and look and, okay, who does this guy play for? What impact has he had on his team winning? So on and so forth. But like, I don't know how much discernment there's going to be among voters that 7 of his however many rushing touchdowns came against Colorado State and UC Davis, or that 5 of them came against UC Davis. Like, what matters is that you rack up the numbers. And so if it's the end of the year and Jonah Coleman goes on to have a great season, maybe it's the difference between, okay, do I vote for Jonah Coleman, who's got 19 touchdowns, or do I vote for this other guy who's got like comparable yardage, but only 15 touchdowns? And maybe it puts him over the top, and nobody cares that 5 of them were against an FCS team.
How many touchdowns would he have to score to win the Heisman? I think it's 32.
32.
I think if he scored 32 touchdowns.
I was thinking 25. A Washington running back winning the Heisman Trophy. He'd have to be just transcendent.
Running backs that have won it. Last one is Derrick Henry. Before that, I believe, is Mark Ingram. And I think that's it since 2000. I think there have been 2 running backs that have won it since 2000. And in the 90s, you had a run where Ron Dane, Eddie George, there's another running back in there.
Oh, Reggie Bush won it.
Oh yeah, Reggie Bush. So are you looking at the list right now?
I'm pulling it up here.
So I think it's in the 90s. I think. Okay, Reggie Bush, yeah. So 3 running backs since 2000, and then I think there were 3 in the 90s, and then Barry Sanders.
So Barry Sanders has the single season touchdown record with 37.
He might.
Does he need that?
Yeah, he might.
It's like I said, it's not even worth like making the case at this point. If he runs for like 190 and 4 touchdowns against Ohio State, like then okay. Then I think you can start to make a little bit of noise. But I'll say this, man, and a buddy of mine made this point, and I think it's a good one. Forget about end of season, like postseason stuff for Jonah Coleman, the next step toward him, really cementing his case as a great UW running back is having a great Apple Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And one, like first and foremost, helping them win that game because they lost it last year. That's the only one he's played in. And certainly it was not on him. He played well in that game. But you think of all the greats, right? I mean, Myles Gaskin in the snow his senior year to cap a stellar career in that game.
That's one of the most enduring moments. In fact, at one point I was going to have a snow globe made of Myles Gaskin in that game to give to Jim Moore, because Jim still whines and complains about how the Cougs would have won that game had it not snowed, which is really funny for a number of reasons. But yeah, an iconic Apple Cup performance. Yeah, I'd say that's especially over in Pullman. Not going to snow this time though.
Bishop Sankey was good in the Apple Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Polk had one of the great Apple Cup games ever. It's kind of started with Hugh McElhaney in 1950. It's still the greatest single game rushing performance in school history. So I think that's, conveniently enough, that's their next game. But I think that's kind of the next checkbox for great UW running back. Historically speaking, great UW running backs have had great Apple Cups. And so here's a chance for Jonah Coleman to check that off as well.
I'm looking at the list of Washington single season records right now. 3 of the top 4 single game rushing yardage performances were in the Apple Cup. McElhaney, 296 in 1950. Then you got Chris Polk, which you just mentioned, 284 in 2010. Then comes Corey Dillon's 259 yards. That was against Oregon, though. And then Cradell Green rushed for 258 yards in 1955.
Wow. So McElhaney's record was nearly broken 5 years later. So coming off of 1955, you're probably thinking like, oh, someone's going to get this eventually. This won't stand the test of time. And Polk came closer. Polk was he was a couple carries away, but Hustle and Hugh still number 1.
Cougs looked better this week.
Yeah, really Cougs important bounce
Cougs
back.
Looked significantly better this week,
justifying my ranking.
It is true.
Me keeping them out of the basement.
That's true. I put them in the basement despite the fact that they won the game. I thought that a nail biter of a victory against Idaho. They were in the basement of my Pac-12 rankings, and that was a miscalculation. Your current basement dweller reaffirmed their status there, though.
Yeah. I not feeling bad about throwing the Bruins down a notch. Should we just get into it? I feel like it's a natural enough segue here.
Yeah, man. That UNLV defense and the Bruins lost to UNLV. That looked like a bad defense the week before. It really looked bad. And then they went and beat UCLA. That is UCLA looked better at the end of the game. Like they put on a push late, but that is definitely a bad loss.
Yeah, who are they going to beat?
It's a good question. It's a really good question.
See, you asked last week, is UCLA better than Colorado State? And I feel like that's evidence that perhaps they're not. But did you see what Colorado State did?
No, I didn't look at Colorado State's result.
Got pushed to the absolute brink by Northern Colorado.
Not a good sign.
They beat them. They won the game. UCLA hosts New Mexico on Friday.
That New Mexico team might be a little more feisty than people expect.
Yeah. Listen, though, for the Bruins, I mean, they got New Mexico, and then they're off, and then they go to Northwestern. And so, I feel like those are 2 manageable games.
But if they're 0-4, they're staring down the barrel. They're staring down the barrel of a death march.
Because then it's Penn State at Michigan State, Maryland at Indiana, Nebraska at Ohio. This is their November. Oh, God, this is October 25th on. They're at Indiana. They host Nebraska. They're at Ohio State. They host Washington, and then they're at USC. That could be. If they're anything but 0-5 coming out of there, then that's a win So it's getting to be pretty tough to see how they're going to win. I'm going to be charitable and say how they're going to win more than 3 games. I think you could say it's tough to see how they're going to win more than 2. Maryland at home, they should have an opportunity. And they looked terrible last year early on and then got better and won a couple games that you wouldn't have thought, when they were looking really rough in September. So teams change, seasons change. Who knows? But it's not a good start for UCLA. On the top part of those rankings,
Yes.
Don't think we saw anything from Oregon to
Nope.
justify bumping them from number 1. My God.
Yeah, that was a thorough dusting.
Not a smart move by Mike Gundy to effectively send the message before the game that we're not playing in the same league as these guys.
Yeah, I thought about that because he's clearly trying to make a pitch for more resources from probably both his boosters and his administration. That's a pretty bad message to send to your team, though. Where you're just like, look, man, we're basically not playing the same sport. And then his team put on a performance that looked very much like they're not playing the same sport.
I thought it was interesting. So I've done a little behind the scenes video of the team meeting room where Washington does its press conferences. It's been renovated and all that. And hanging in that room is a sign, I'm trying to pull it up here, of the 10 program standards. They're 2025 program standards. And I thought of this when I read Mike Gundy's comments. Number 1 is no whining, no complaining, no excuses. And then the sub bullet beneath that is we have what and who it takes to win. And I thought the public comment from Mike Gundy is a bit of a violation of that tenet. So perhaps that's not one that Oklahoma State holds as dear. Although every coach, and Jedd Fisch is no exception, always battling for resources and donations behind the scenes. But to come out the week of the game and say specifically about your opponent, I mean, he flat out said, there's coaches who think that non-conference games should only be played among teams that spend the same. What message are you sending to your guy? You're basically telling him it's okay. It's okay if we lose this game. It's okay if we're not competitive in this game.
Yeah, you're saying I don't expect us to be competitive.
Before you go across the country to play in a hostile environment.
Yep. Yeah.
You're giving him nothing. You're giving him no reason to go out there with any juice at all. And they're obviously really bad. So it wouldn't have mattered anyway, but
it does reek of the I hate coaches who pretend to be like captain accountability. And yet when things look bad or a result hangs out there, it basically becomes don't blame me. Look at what I have to work with. I think it's a scumbag move. And that there's just no reason. The only incentive, the only thing you're gaining by doing that is trying to make either your boosters or your administration, you're trying to guilt them into giving you more, which I don't think is operating from a position of sort of strength. Like, that's guilting people isn't the most effective way to get more resources. Like, playing well is. Like, that's just the flat out end of it. Like, trying to guilt people into doing something and saying, like, well, if you want us to be better, you got to pay us more. That might get the next guy hired paid more. It's not going to get you paid more. It's not going to get a better resources for you.
Feeling good about moving Utah ahead of Arizona State.
Yeah, week. That kind of I've got Utah ahead of Arizona State now too. Mississippi State had something to do with that, though.
Yeah, I don't know how good they are. Is it? I like ASU. I like where they're going. I think they've got a good quarterback. They have a good receiver. I think Kenny Dillingham has played the portal very well since he's been there. And obviously, like on a week-to-week basis, gets a ton out of his guys. Like he's a coach he's always going to have his guys ready to go. Seems to have great command of that place. culturally and X's and O's wise. So I'm not down on Arizona State. I did just wonder a little bit coming off last year, like, was there going to be some regression to the mean a little bit in close games? And this is like, I don't know, this is exactly the type of game that I was kind of thinking of, where maybe last year's team found a way to win it and you don't have Cam Scattaboo anymore. No, I don't think they're doomed or anything. Just not surprised that they'd maybe have a close loss at this point in the season.
I have not watched Drew Allard enough to make a declarative statement regarding this, but other than him, he's the only guy that might be a better quarterback in college football than Sam Leavitt in my mind. Of the guys I'm currently watching. I haven't watched enough of Drew Allard to say whether or not, but I think Leavitt's a really good quarterback. That is, SEC defenses are really tough and they lost, but I still remain pretty high on Arizona State. And if you gave me a choice of any coach in the country to land at a program, it might be Dillingham that I take. It really might be Dillingham. I think the dude's super sharp.
Yeah, you're not alone there. His name's going to come up for like any high profile job that comes open, I would imagine.
Oh, like one at Florida?
Oh, it's might there be an opening there?
I don't know. We'll see. They got LSU this week after losing to USF.
Yeah, that was brutal.
It was hilarious.
As my Wazoo friends have pointed out, there was a time when the Cougars had both Cam Ward and John Mateer on the roster with Sam Leavitt committed to them.
Jeez.
They can identify him, man, and develop him. Don't always get to finish with him, but bummer.
All right, so we got Oregon, Utah. My number 3 is Washington. Your number 3 is USC.
Yeah, I don't think we saw enough from the Trojans to drop them. Some defensive leakiness at times against Georgia Southern, but they won 59-20. They didn't let them hang around, so I'm fine rewarding them by keeping them number 3, and I would have Washington number 4. There was nothing they could do against UC Davis to really make you believe one thing or another about them. I will say, and I wrote this, having your team that ready to play in a game where they know they're better than the opponent, and they know that it's not going to be 70,000 people in their seats at kickoff, and that you're probably going to be playing the second half in front of 5,000. I don't know. A friend of mine who went to the game texted me right before the kickoff of second half and said, I'm already home. So I think there were a lot of people who made that decision. To have them maintain their focus in a way where, they gave up a touchdown and a field goal, and the field goal was really the benefit of a bad roughing the passer penalty, not a bad call, just a bad penalty to commit. And you score a touchdown on every drive. You gain every single yard available to you with a punt return score, and played, if not a perfect game, then darn near a perfect game. I've seen Washington play a lot of FCS teams. I've never seen them score 9 touchdowns in 9 possessions.
Mm-hmm.
So, and most teams don't do that. I looked, Ohio State beat Grambling 70-0. Not even a game, not a test at all. Similar situation to this. But they punted once and they threw an interception, and so to have the focus to be able to execute, even though it's a team that down in, down out, you've got a huge physical advantage over, and you should feel like you should score a touchdown on every drive against a team like that. To actually go out and do it, to me, it's a positive indication that who knows what they'll look like physically, athletically against Ohio State, Oregon, but this is a team that has proven that they will show up ready to play. And I don't know that they totally always did last year. I think they had bigger problems than preparation, but they're just, could say 9 a.m. kickoff, East Coast, whatever. There are a couple of road games in particular where it was man, these guys look a little bit sleepy.
There are also times where it was man, they're really getting pushed around. I feel like they're getting shoved in lockers. I got Washington 3, USC 4. I put Arizona State 5. How far did the Sun Devils fall in your rankings?
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not out on them. thought about maybe even still keeping him over Washington, but for now we'll drop him to 5.
Who you got
And
at
I'm hanging
6?
tough with Cal at 6.
6. Yep, that's where I put Cal this week. Cal's, I mean, it's you don't want to read too much into preseason non-conference, but Cal's looked impressive. Cal looks fairly well put together. Like
Look, man,
yeah.
when you got the quarterback, especially playing in the ACC.
Cal's points, it's points for 69, points against 18. Some of the better margins you're going to see. I don't want to get too riled up. It's Oregon State and Texas Southern, but yep, that's pretty impressive. I've got Arizona 7. I don't know if I fully believe in them yet, but also they've done you can't have asked them to do anything more than what they've done given their current schedule.
88-9.
Mm-hmm.
They're outscoring opponents so far. It's Hawaii and Weber State.
Yep.
And, should we feel compelled to defend Stanford, playing Hawaii at home, much different thing than traveling there to play a game. I'm not saying it's the most intimidating environment, but it's a long trip. It's not the type of climate you're usually playing. Arizona's used to the heat, but they did absolutely demolish a team that beat Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say that there's a pretty good separation between the Wildcats and the Cardinal, at least. And then I just went out and took care of business against Weber State. This was a team that got pushed to the brink by Northern Arizona last year in Brent Brennan's debut. And I can't sit here and pretend like I have a great comparison between 2025 Weber State and 2024 Northern Arizona. But as you said, they've taken care of business. So they get to be number 7 for now. Do we like Colorado number 8?
That's where Colorado is on my rankings. They're might change quarterbacks. Sounds like they're changing quarterbacks, but then Dion's kind of cagey about it. I think 8's the right spot for them. They're not hopeless, but it's hard to see. They still seem to lack direction on the offensive side of the football.
What'd you do with the Cougs?
I got the Cougs at 9. That's a legit win.
Fair.
That's a legit win, man. Like they have a notch in the belt that the 3 guys below them most certainly do not, and they're 2-0. It's possible they should be above Colorado. I just think if you put those 2 teams on the same field, I think Colorado beats them. But the Cougs are solidly number 9.
Yeah, it's possible San Diego State is terrible. They were not good last year. Can't say I love their quarterback situation. But, hey, beat an FCS team by 3 points last week and then come out and take care of business against a team that is going to be a conference opponent.
Yeah, your future conference. They're establishing dominance right now.
Yeah, that's a big win. There's no doubt. The last 3 are tough.
Yep.
I don't want to put Stanford 10th. I think that's way too high.
You're gonna put. Who do you have at 10?
See, no, I'm gonna go Oregon State 10th.
What?
What has Stanford done to deserve to be there?
Stanford. Well, no. I have UCLA there because at least UCLA's
no. No.
At least there's an argument to be made for UCLA's losses. Like there's a fig leaf of respectability there in that it's possible that some of that Utah and UNLV are good teams.
Well,
Utah's the best team that any of those bottom 3 have played.
That's true. I mean, empirically, we probably should have UCLA. I had them last week, and then they lost to UNLV. Listen, true. Oregon State has like their special teams is why they can't win a game. Like, have you followed this disaster that is? And I'm not just talking about Trent Bray's halftime comment, which was funny in its own right. They have not actually attempted. They've not actually been able to attempt a PAT this year.
Yeah.
They've tried, but they've botched the snap. So like the kick attempt didn't actually happen. And then they've gone for 2 and their long snapper's been hurt. And did you see the punt return touchdown they gave up?
The punt return touchdown was epically funny.
I'm not sure. It's one of the worst plays I've ever seen. I'm not sure I've ever seen a punt return touchdown off of an illegally kicked football.
It was really funny. Was it worse than the Colorado State fake?
Yes.
the difference the difference with the Oregon State play was that I really can't fault anybody for the way it went down. It seemed like an unfortunate confluence of bad events. I don't really blame the punter for just kicking the ball, because at that point, do anything you can to get it out of there. Yeah, you're going to get penalized for it, but like you want to get it away from you. The Colorado State, like somebody made the decision that they thought that play was going to work. Like somebody was like, "Here's what we're going to do."
That's true. Yeah, I mean the punt return thing, like it's a fluky thing. It's a bad, like it's a routine play. It's a bad snap, or I actually don't remember if it was a bad snap or just dropped.
It was
might
high.
have been a bad snap. Yeah. Something goes wrong with the snap and it's just heat of the moment, panic. I got to make a decision. And
then nobody tackles him.
And then no one tackled him.
And then your coach curses on live television.
And he was right.
He was.
It was a bit of a joke. I like to reference Parker Fleming's "Did we really get beat that bad?" chart, and I'm trying to find Oregon State's results. So, just to give you some context on whether they truly did get outplayed that much by Fresno State, this was the second largest margin of net success rate in favor of the losing team across college football in week 2, at least FBS versus FBS. Only Michigan State was out success rated more by an opponent that it defeated. So the Beavs aren't playing poorly when their offense and or defense are on the field necessarily. Like they weren't good against Cal, but this was truly like a special teams disaster.
I have Oregon State in the basement. Oregon State's the one team that I could see going winless this year, because all the signs of chaos are there, and when a team truly goes winless, it's usually because of it's not just a lack of talent or loft, as Ryan Divish likes to put it. It is a giving up on the man in charge, and Trent Bray right now looks like he's under siege.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't feel good about putting any one of these 3 teams 10th.
I've got UCLA 10. I've got UCLA 10, Stanford 11, Oregon State 12.
Yeah, I'm going to go Oregon State 10, Stanford 11, UCLA 12. I am less inclined to forgive UCLA for its shortcomings. And I know they're not exactly in the best financial position, but you're in the Big Ten. You made the decision to go to the Big Ten. You made the decision to go out and replace your quarterback. They deserve to be 12 this week.
It's fair enough. You ready for our conversation with IP McFarland?
Let's do it.
Each week, he asks, and we do our best to answer. It is IP McFarland from ipmcfarland.com.
Good morning, guys. Even the Cal Lightning game, I set my alarm every 20 minutes or whenever the next Lightning delay was set for, stayed up and watched the end. Saturday night, in the middle of the third quarter, I went to bed. One person who notably didn't was Christian Caple. Christian, I don't speak on behalf of On Montlake subscribers. Some have made very clear on Blue Sky that I do not speak on behalf of them. Others are very nice. Next time Washington's up 50 against an FCS opponent, you can go home. You can watch it on recording. You're not going to learn anything in post-game comments anyway. We'd rather have you alive than drive home at 3:30 for no reason whatsoever. My question this week, though, is related to what we saw Saturday night, and I'm not pointing to any particular plays or production. I'm talking about the gained every available yard element and the way that Jedd Fisch was treating that the whole last 2.5 quarters. I mean, when Kai Horton came in, he was slinging it. They were looking at that as real practice reps, as this is an opportunity to see what we've got should we need it, where previous UW coaches, once the starters get pulled in the middle of the third quarter, they're handing it off. And, there's no burst from the line. It's just, let's just burn this clock and get home. The flip side of that is that if you make a habit of that, if you run it up and are known to run it up, people are going to run it up against you. That's how it's always gone. And you can ask Steve Spurrier about that. My question is, do you take that as a fan? Or Christian being, and yes, I'm saying Christian here, being a capital J journalist, as somebody who follows this team closely. I wish you guys a good week. Enjoy the bye week. You don't have to do anything on Saturday. Go Dogs.
So do you think they were running it up? Did it feel to you like they were running it up? I don't know that I got that vibe.
No, I don't think they ran every play between the tackles, but I didn't think there was anything unsportsmanlike about it. I think that's the way you should handle it. You should give those players a chance to play. I always look at it, if you're trying to run it up, you're really trying to score a touchdown in as few plays as possible. That's what running it up to me means. They weren't trying to run out the clock, but that's a lot of football, and guys deserve an opportunity to play. I don't have any issue with how it was handled. I maybe I would if I was a UC Davis player, but I also think that that's just part of the deal when these games are scheduled.
Yeah, I mean, Kai Horton was 3 of 5 for 50 yards. His 2 incompletions were definitely shots downfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I did note when he came in and on this first possession, it was like, oh, okay, this ain't just like hand the ball off 3 times and punt, get out of here. They're going to run the offense. I think Jedd Fisch would say, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty confident this is his thinking. I think Jedd Fisch would say, like, when the backups get to play, they've earned the right to play.
Yeah.
And they're going to play.
Yes.
They're not just out there so that the starters don't get hurt. That's primarily why they're out there. But, they've earned the right. They work just as hard as everybody else. We're going to run the offense is, I think, what he would say. But with that said, Kai Horton played, how many snaps in this game? 22. 5 of them were pass attempts.
Yeah.
So they're going to let their guys play, and they still mostly ran the ball, right?
So I watched Spinal Tap last night because I'm going to see they made a sequel that debuts on Friday, which I'm excited about. If you run it up, it's when you turn your offense to 11. That was Washington's offense at 5, right? When Kai comes into the game, they ran normal offense. They didn't dial everything back. They ran normal offense. I think that's fine. Maybe other people would have different things. If you're going to schedule games against FCS opponents, you're going to have situations where there's more than a quarter left. And what do you do with that? Are you supposed to just run fullback dive for the rest of the game? I think it's fair to have guys play. You just need to keep it set to 5. You don't want it up to 11.
There you go. That's fair. How concerned are you about Rashid Williams' injury? We mentioned it earlier. I wanted to get a little more into that because that's like the one thing. I feel like it was such a blowout, easy, feel good win. Jonah Coleman 5 touchdowns, easy win over an FCS team going into a bye. But then like that's the one sort of negative undertone from this game that I don't want to get totally overlooked.
It's a bummer in terms of injuries that you could suffer and potential injuries. I think that is a spot where not just Washington's depth, but some of the young players, I would be, it'll sound like I minimize. It's a bummer for him. I don't think that injury is going to derail the season, even if he's not able to come back. It's a huge bummer, and it's going to mean opportunities for other guys. But I think that wide receiver is a spot where you will find and have other guys who will be capable of stepping into.
Yeah, I more or less agree. You're going to be relying on Desmond Roebuck a ton.
Yep.
And so on the outside now, like without Rashid Williams, it's basically Roebuck and Audric Harris, I guess, would be the next guy up. If you want to kick Raiden Vinesbright out there as well, he's got the ability to do that. They got Chris Lawson back. Maybe that's, but I just named 3 true freshmen and a true sophomore who played last year and enough not to redshirt, but still has like single digit career targets.
Mm-hmm.
So it was already kind of coming into the year like Denzel Boston and everybody else in terms of experience, right? Obviously, they think a lot of those guys are talented. They clearly believe in Raiden Vinesbright. They clearly believed in Desmond Roebuck before they'd played a game. He was on the depth chart. He was going to be a guy who was going to play and not redshirt. So these are guys they really like. These are their guys for the most part, but they really thought Rashid Williams and saw Rashid Williams as a clear number 2 to Denzel Boston and somebody who was going to be a big part of their offense. So I don't want to, I think there's understandable excitement around Desmond Roebuck. I mean, we haven't even talked about the jet sweep that he took and spun, bounced off guys, and yardage after catch is not even like one of the top 3 or 4 skills that come to mind when I think about him as a player, but he kind of showed it there. So like maybe there won't be any drop off and this will just be kind of the start of the legend of Desmond Roebuck, so to speak. But I think this offense is better if they have Rashid Williams.
So every time I see Desmond Roebuck touch the ball, all I can think of is, really? Arizona didn't offer him? It's like, really? It's
going to be a thing.
It's similar to what I think when I see Cam Scadaboo played his first game for the Giants. And you can already tell he's going to be a fan favorite just because of how he runs. But you're like, man, like that guy's a really good football player. I don't care what you tell me about the measurables or anything else. Like, that guy looks like a football. That's how Desmond Roebuck looks to me. It's like, that guy looks like a really good football player. The most difficult injuries to overcome for a football team will be an experienced starter where it's like, hey, this is the one guy that we're really counting on at this spot. Like someone who is supremely experienced, and you lose him, and then everybody's basically got to move up a rung on the depth chart. The other one is where you are at a spot where you are extremely thin, and you feel that if everything goes right and you're kind of holding your breath of like, we're okay there, we just don't have much depth. In this case, and this is not a criticism or to diminish Rashid Williams' presence at all, he doesn't really fit into either of those buckets, because I do think they have other receivers who are, I'm not going to say they're just as talented, because Williams was their clear number 2, but that I don't think it's a bare spot, and I don't think it was something where that offense was structured in a way that leaned heavily on Williams. Maybe it would have gotten to that, and it's a huge bummer for him. Injuries happen in football. This is not one that I put into this will inevitably alter the course of your season. I don't think that's what this is.
Denzel Boston looked more explosive to you returning that punt?
Yeah. Do you like him punt returning?
I think it's fine. I don't have a strong opinion on it.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was funny that I was watching the broadcast back, they referenced a question that some reporter, I don't know who it was, but asked Jedd Fisch about having Denzel Boston back there. To be clear, like that, I asked that question, but to be clear, that was not my way of like expressing an opinion one way or the other.
Kind of threw you under the bus.
A little bit, yeah. It's fine. That's fine. Let them. People are people ask, right? Like that's, I write for my readers, I write for my customers. I see people discussing something and wanting an answer to something or curious about something. Hey, I got the ability to ask the head coach, so let me bounce it off the head
Heck
coach.
yeah.
And yeah, what Jedd Fisch basically said was, well, once he's not our very best punt returner, then he won't be returning punts. But no one's beating him out. And like they did give Rashawn Clark the opportunity. Romo Dunze returned punts long enough for Washington. I think once the rib injury happened, then it was like, okay, that's enough of that, right? If a guy's nursing something, if a guy's playing through something, then I think you back off of it. But if you've got a guy who can be like a difference maker in that part of the game, and you don't feel like your second best option is as much of a difference maker, like, I think someone who's been around as long as he has, you trust him to protect himself. You trust him to not try to, I think you've seen them last year and this year err on the side of calling fair catch.
Yes.
A lot of the time. And I don't know if that's a coaching point necessarily, or if it's, if it goes more toward, hey, don't risk it. Right. Like Chris Peterson always said, and I'm sure he's not the only coach, but like in the punt return game, your primary job is to get the ball back to the offense. Don't do anything that puts at risk us getting the ball back to the offense. And I think you add to that, don't put your body in undue harm, in the way of undue harm either. Don't try to be a hero and catch a ball and not call fair catch when someone's bearing down and you might get an awkward hit that you're not totally prepared to take or juke or whatever. So I think he's done a pretty good job of that. Like, I can't recall too many where he really took a shot where you're like, ooh, man, you'd rather your star receiver not be getting hit that way on special teams.
He did look more explosive in that. I'm always a proponent of your best players getting as many opportunities as possible. I have wondered with Boston and with what we just talked about, how much he is the one experienced receiver you have. Is that a risk you need to take, or even just the wear and tear that comes with that? But if he is going to be explosive and he is going to, like, that play looked like it's a difference, and especially in the Big Ten, that was the first time I was like, ooh, he really might be an asset back there, as opposed to he's just the guy with the best hands.
So I think that's kind of where a lot of the fan concern has come from, was that they didn't see anything last year to make you think like,
yeah,
on the absolute extreme end, like literally the most extreme end in the history of college football in some ways is Dante Pettis.
Yes.
So elite that nobody would ever question. No, it would not even be a thought in your mind of like, well, like, this guy is an important receiver. Do we want him returning? Well, yeah, you probably want the NCAA's all-time leader in punt return touchdowns returning punts. Yes, because that's someone who flat out won them the Utah game in 2016. Like, that's somebody who has a skill on special teams who can turn a game you lose into a game you win. And I don't know that we saw that from Denzel Boston last year. And I think if you had, then you wouldn't have had people wondering, like, why is he still returning punts? He's so important to the offense. Is this really, a part of the game we want to risk injury in? I think if he's going to house a 78-yarder every now and then you start to. I saw similar. Even though I always thought it was something he was really great at, and that they should try him more than anything. I heard similar concern about putting Rome Odunze back there, just because he's so valuable. And like, man, there's really nobody else on this team that can, but then he houses an 83-yarder against Cal. And it's like, well, yeah, that's one way you can deploy those skills that like has a a huge impact on the game.
The upside is what you always want to keep like the biggest eye on. What is the upside here? And if he's the best, but you don't think he's extraordinary at it, if you don't think it's going to be a difference in a game, but if you see him as a playmaker and he wants to do it, I absolutely like that return sort of made me feel like, okay, that's why he's back there. Like, yeah, there is the possibility, there is that home run threat here, whereas I hadn't necessarily seen that before.
What are you doing this weekend? No game to watch.
Plus, punt returns are just awesome. Punt returns are such a it's
kick returns too.
Fantastic. Yes,
kick returns too, and we don't get to see very many of them anymore. I get why, but it's kind of a bummer.
Although in the NFL, the rules, if those eventually make their way down to college, you're going to see more. And the returns from this first week of the NFL's new kickoff rule is they might have it down where you're going to see more kickoff returns, and it's pretty exciting. This weekend, I'm going to be rooting my tail off for fellow Big Ten program Wisconsin.
Oh, yes. That's right.
They got Alabama.
Nice bounce back for the Tide.
Yeah.
Took out their frustrations on poor little ULM.
They did go pummel them. They did go absolutely wail on them for a little while. I don't think Wisconsin has much of a shot in this game, but it'd be sure funny if it happened.
Shouldn't you be watching every Wisconsin game now?
Probably, with Danny O'Neil involved.
Yeah. Although it doesn't sound like Billy Edwards should be out like too much longer, but I don't think he's playing this week, right?
No. And I don't know how well he played before the injury there. And it's certainly business picked up once Danny O'Neil got in the game. I have wondered whether I should give Danny O'Neil the Twitter handle.
No, make him pay for it.
I'm not going to make him pay for it.
He's going to blow up. He's going to want it. You can be like those people who squat on domain names.
No, that would be the worst. That's the scummiest thing possible. I have wondered though, like at what level should it get to where I'd feel like I should give it to him? I guess maybe it's when people start really thinking I'm him. Yeah.
We got to get you and him and Oregon Danny O'Neil together.
That would be very funny.
I'm Danny O'Neil, joined today by Danny O'Neil and Danny O'Neil.
Yeah. Who are you? Are there games you're specifically looking forward to watching this weekend?
Yeah, I don't know what the plan is. If I'm going to be sitting around the house all day or what, but very curious about Wazoo. Mm-hmm. First road game of the year, going to Denton, Texas. North Texas is 2-0, though I don't know a ton about them. Weird thing for Washington to have a bye before the Apple Cup. Don't think they're going to have a ton of sympathy toward Wazoo over it because they turn around and host Ohio State coming off of a bye and then play 4 more Big Ten teams who are coming off of a bye. So just weird bye placement. I don't know if they can't decide if they like it or not. I think that they're dinged up enough with some D linemen coming back from some long-term stuff that they think are getting really close that maybe it's a good time, but I don't know, it just feels like you're just getting started, and in their case maybe building a little bit of momentum. Do you want the week off, right when you kind of feel like things are clicking and you got a chance to get better week to week? I don't know if that matters at all, but want to watch Wazoo. It's not a real packed slate in terms of, I was just looking at Washington's future opponents this year and the games that they play, and there's not a lot.
You got LSU. Florida is a very interesting game. Florida's got a brutal schedule coming up. Very, very difficult. So that becomes important. And then I think it's Tennessee, Georgia. Tennessee, Georgia is probably the best SEC game. I'm interested in Tennessee. Their quarterback, I don't know. I thought he was pretty good last year, but I think Aguilar might be a more stable quarterback. He's certainly less able to improvise, but I'm interested. Tennessee's got my curiosity piqued because I thought that Aguilar's got a pretty strong arm.
Got South Florida at Miami, which is far more interesting now than it was a couple weeks ago. Also, Texas A&M plays at Notre Dame. So, get some big games nationally. I'm more interested in the teams that Washington will be playing this year, just to kind of get some sense for what they look like. You got, Oregon goes to Northwestern. Can't imagine that'll be real interesting. Michigan hosts Central Michigan.
Did you watch the Michigan-Oklahoma game?
I saw highlights. Didn't get to see any of it. Saw John Mateer make a pretty wild play and a receiver make a pretty great catch at the end of it.
Mateer's really, really competitive. Oklahoma's defense was impressive, and you certainly saw Michigan.
I saw there was sideline beef.
A little bit. That I don't think was that, because that was between the running back and the quarterback. The running back who transferred, I think, from Alabama. That seemed like it got quelled. Oklahoma, we'll have to see. Oklahoma might have a really physical defense. Otherwise, if that's not a case of Oklahoma's defense being really good, then Michigan just might not be as tough as I thought they were up front. And that quarterback is really good, but he's pretty young, and he needs more protection than he got in that game.
I saw, was it Dave Portnoy was mad they weren't letting him throw more? That was the thing.
We've gotten to the point where we're going to reference Dave Portnoy opinions. Has that happened?
I guess.
He's part of a Fox pregame show. It's so crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's not Michigan football, man. If Michigan is going to need their quarterback to throw 35 times a game, that's not what that team has ever been built to do. And they're gonna come crashing back to earth. And I am impressed with the quarterback. I think he doesn't look like a true freshman, but he is not someone that strikes me as like, yeah, you really want that guy throwing 35 times a game. Like that's not him. He's able to move really well. It looks like he throws pretty well on the run, but I mean, Oklahoma kind of kicked their butt. And whenever a team kicks Michigan's butt, Michigan's always known for on both sides of the ball, just being big and physical. And I didn't think they had an advantage in that regard.
Enjoy the bye weekend, however you spend it, whatever games you watch. We will talk to you next week to preview the Apple Cup.